Tucker, what it do, man? You got a nice little setup right there. You like a real
That's dope,
podcast,
man. I
Tucker.
like it.
Right?
Thank you.
Look at
Thank
that,
you.
man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I'm doing good out here in Missouri, living the best we can.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Man, we appreciate you for coming on. You from KC Sports Network, but also
Yes, sir.
co-host on Mizzou That's Who podcast.
I like that one.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we got the Mizzou That's Who podcast on the KC Sports Network, covering Mizzou for the Kansas City side of things. You know, St. Louis big in Missouri, Kansas City big in Missouri, so we're kind of covering both ends there
Right,
too.
right.
So yeah.
All right, man. You got Elijah Drinkwitz is coming back to Gainesville. Last time I
Yeah.
seen this guy, he was trolling my team with costumes, man.
Yeah, I remember
Got
that.
real disrespectful last
Yeah.
year, man. But we get you guys in the swamp this year at noon. How you feeling about this matchup, man? Your defense seems to be playing okay football, to be honest with you. Some question marks about quarterback and the offense, but how you feeling?
You know, it's one of those. It's been one of those years. It's been a very up and down year already. You know, Eli's definitely done some things in the past that make you cringe a little bit. That was one of them when he goes and wears costumes up to press conferences, and you just got to take the good with the bad. You want to see him win a little bit more games on the field if he's going to do that stuff. So that's kind of Missouri fans are a little uneasy with him. I won't say he's on the hot seat, but he's got to start winning some games if he's going to act like that. I think is kind of what a lot of people have been saying. But this matchup here, you know, an 11 a.m. kickoff, you know, for the Central Time Zone, 11 a.m. kickoff in the swamp. That's a weird time, man. I mean, especially going down into the swamp, it's going to be an interesting game. Defense coming off a really good performance against Georgia. Me personally, I didn't expect them to play that well against Georgia. I think that was one of those things where I was kind of surprised by it. They had a near sellout crowd. It was the first home night SEC game Mizzou has had in quite some time, just because it hadn't really been relevant in quite some time. So they get the number one team coming into Columbia, pack the place up, got the guys hyped up. I think some of the shenanigans from Georgia pregame where they walked through their stretching lines and just act like they run the place did kind of get that team up. But a big question for this game is going to be, what gets them up for a new game in the swamp, right? Like you're not going to have Florida walking through their stretching lines to get them fired up. They've got to have something
Georgia
that can get them up.
ain't it?
Oh yeah,
that's crazy.
Incredibly disrespectful.
That's what we do, baby. Stay the GA, man.
I know you're
Very
gonna be
disrespectful.
you're gonna be confused, man. Ignore that guy. He jumps bandwagon.
We
just talk about
Georgia.
his fan closet. It's everywhere, man. Like
It's all good.
Disrespectful, dog.
That's crazy. I had no idea they did that. That's
crazy. Yeah, they had some scuffling going on pregame, man. And Mizzou came, like he said, fired them up. They played some good defense and made it a football game.
Yeah, one of the guys who did play really good, Tyrone Hopper. I'm sure you're familiar with Tyrone Hopper. Played in Florida last year.
Man, we miss him.
I'm sure I'll say this: he didn't play as good as he is this year at Florida. He looks like a completely different player for Missouri. I was impressed with Tyrone when he played last year against Missouri.
Right.
But that was his best game he played all year. He doesn't look the same. He's turned into kind of a dude for Mizzou on that Mizzou defense, which great to see because, man, that Mizzou defense last year couldn't stop a nosebleed. They were battered. They could not stop a run. They allowed 200 and some rushing yards to Central Michigan in one of their first games of the season, and it didn't get any better from there. So
I think you
Mizzou
guys
had a big
added,
test.
you guys added 10 transfers to that defensive side of the ball since last year, correct?
Yeah, so added a transfer at every single position. So they're going into the defensive year, you had a transfer in competition at every single position on that defense, which was huge because you had turnover. Steve Wilkes went to the NFL, no longer the defensive coordinator. They elevate Blake Bakers from quarterbacks coach up to the defensive coordinator, and he switched him to a 4-2-5, much more of an NFL type style defense, which is kind of weird when you talk about Steve Wilkes not really running that side of the defense. But comes up Blake Baker, 4-2-5. They've got the dudes up front now. A lot of those transfers coming on that defensive line and really sturdying up that defensive line.
Blake Baker of Miami fame. Okay, all right. Just jotting down some notes, jotting down a few notes. All right, continue, brother Silk. Go ahead and say what you got to say, my man.
All right, I appreciate that, brother Larry Young. Cook has completed 63% of his passes for 997 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. His favorite target and the guy that just got included into the Blitnikoff Award watch list, Dominique Lovett, Seems to be his main go-to guy. How do you feel about that offense? I know they've been struggling a little bit. Do you think they can figure it out? I know he's been progressing. He's been struggling, but he also has been getting a little better. How you see them squaring up against a iffy secondary at the University of Florida right now? If I was to be honest.
Well, the tough part for Brady is he's got to have time to throw. The offensive line not really giving him that time to throw right now. The offensive line is pretty shoddy for Missouri. They did run the ball really well against Georgia. Surprisingly, ran the ball really well against Georgia because they're not as good of a running line as they are a pass blocking line, which isn't saying anything because the offensive line has left a lot to be desired this year. And if you look at the talent that they have at the skill positions, I mean, they've got talented wide receivers. They've got Luther Burden. They've got Dom Lovett. They've got Mookie Cooper, who was a transfer from Ohio State. I mean, they've got dudes who can play wide receiver. They've got running backs. They have Nate Pete, who's their top leading rusher right now, who is a transfer from Stanford. They got the Division II transfer from Truman State University here in Missouri. Cody Schrader, he's running some running back, and they have Eli Young on their roster as well. So they've got some dudes at the skill positions. They just have to get the ball into their hands, and that's been the hardest part for this Missouri offense is getting enough time for Brady Cooper to throw the Brady Cook, getting him to throw the ball to Mookie Cooper or Dom Lovett, or get it in the hands of Nate Pete. Some of those guys that when you put them in space, they're playmakers. They can make plays in space. That's why what I want to see from this team is a lot more quick passes, slants, bubble screens, stuff like that. You got to get the ball into the hands of, Luther Burden, the 5-star kid that is the first one since like Dorial Green Beckham came to Mizzou. There's a lot of expectations coming in for him, and he's kind of feeling those expectations right now. So want to see him get a little bit more involved in the offense, but it's been hard because Brady just hasn't had time to throw, and his deep ball accuracy is not necessarily the best either. So
now you mentioned the fans been a little at unease with my man Drinkwitz. I remember watching earlier in the season, a couple games ago, and watching the Auburn game and thinking like, man, they should have won that game, and their fans got to be like livid at the conservatives. They was very conservative, I thought, going down and impressed that game. What do you think about the play calling, and what do you think they need to do differently going on the road to Florida?
They got to be aggressive, obviously. I think Drinkwitz kind of played not to lose that game, as you could kind of see kind of in his play calling there. They get that big play down to like the 1.5 yard line or something like that, the 3 yard line, and they decide to knee it, center it up for now. Granted, albeit Harrison Meeves was an All-American kicker, and you saw him against Georgia hit some pretty big kicks. So I don't knock Eli Drinkwitz for trusting that guy. He's probably the best offensive player right now in terms of production on Missouri's team. Hate to say that if you're a Missouri fan, to say your kicker's been I think he scored the most points on Missouri this season as well. So I understand wanting to kick the field goal, trusting that guy. He's been there for a long time. I think he's a 4-year guy, an All-American kicker. I get that. But, man, I'd like to see a couple shots at the end zone, especially with 50 seconds left in the game. You got plenty of time to give a shot at the end zone, run the ball a couple times to really ensure that you do win that game. And if I'm Auburn, I'd probably let Missouri score to give myself a chance to try to win that game. So that's probably part of the thought process that goes into there. But going into this season, Eli Drinkwitz said he was going to be incredibly aggressive this year, and then all of a sudden you just didn't see that. And I think that's kind of the frustrating part of it is he's saying one thing, doing another thing, and we've seen that a couple times with Eli where he's saying all of these things, and it's not quite adding up on the field. Nothing is adding up on the field wise. I mean, I think he's pretty darn close to 500 in his career at Missouri. You'd like to see a little bit more production from him, especially with such good recruiting classes that he has. He's proven to be a really good recruiter. Whatever he's telling these high school kids is working. He's getting kids on campus. Now, this team here is his first team that's like fully his team because, everything with like the COVID restricted year and everything like that. He's finally got guys who want to play for him on this football team. So there was a lot of expectations going into this year to kind of be more over 500. But those first few games, man, they get absolutely curb stomped by K-State. That was an ugly game. Never looked like they were ever going to win it. And then follow it up with a very lackluster performance against FCS Abilene Christian. I know a lot of Missouri fans were upset by that. We're upset by what they saw. The team that just didn't look motivated, and that's kind of a big thing. But the Georgia loss surprisingly turned some tides for some people. I mean, it was still a loss, which I mean shows you how down bad Missouri is a little
rubbing
bit.
their belly out there, nice little close win. I like it.
Yeah, you win. We left for 55 minutes of the game. That's close.
We
enough.
can
That's
lose
good
with the
enough
best
for us.
of them.
Yeah,
I sent out a tweet, man. You guys could have won that game as well. You just got to go get through.
Sure.
I thought he got conservative. You're playing Georgia. Like this is King Kong. They just walk through your warm ups. Go for sevens, man. He was kicking too many field goals, in my opinion. He should have been more aggressive. Defense is playing good football. What do you got to lose? Everybody expect you to lose this game. I thought he should have been more aggressive, but nonetheless, how do you see Florida? Go ahead, CJ. You got something?
Yeah, just a real quick question, Tucker. I know it was some concerns in regards to Luther Burden, 5-star receiver you guys got from St. Louis. He had, I think, some, what these kids do on social media and stuff like that. Talk about what you're hearing as far as Luther and how he's feeling within the program and stuff like that.
Yeah, from what I've heard from people close to him, he's never thought of transferring. I think he's more frustrated with the fact that people think that he's going to transfer. And that's pretty. I can understand as a kid, 18-year-old kid, people think that you're gonna leave your hometown school to go somewhere else, just chase a ring, almost chase some NIL money, chase whatever it is. But I understand where he's coming from. He cleared all of his Instagram and said, like, patiently waiting. A lot of grown men freaked out about an 18-year-old clearing his Instagram. But it's a day. It's a day and age we live in, man. People freak out about that stuff all the time. But I don't think there's anything to that. He is frustrated. He's not getting quite the involvement that he anticipated his freshman year. But if you look at him compared to some of the other top receivers in his class, he's right on pace with yardage and stuff. He's had a couple injuries. He's been banged up a little bit. Nothing that's been too serious, but something that could restrict maybe his usage a little bit. He got 0 touches in the Auburn game, which was kind of a big deal. And that's when he took down everything. He didn't have any touches. It said Drinkwitz did say he got hurt in that game. Now, did he actually get hurt in the game, or is Drinkwitz just kind of covering for himself, saying, like, instead of like, oh, I didn't call any touches for him because he was hurt, or is he saying that he's hurt? That's been speculated out there too. Yeah, if he's actually hurt. He is a very dynamic punt returner. The first time he returned a punt in his college career, he took it back for a touchdown. Granted, it was against Abilene Christian, but the dude's dynamic with the ball in his hands. Mizzou just has to get the ball into his hands, and that's been the hardest part, trying to figure out that quarterback. They had Sam Horn coming to this class with him, who is a guy who's also playing baseball at Mizzou.
Sam Horn. He was from Georgia. He was the quarterback for Travis Hunter.
Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter, Jackson State fame?
Jackson State.
Yep. So
shout out Dion.
Shout out Dion. Shout out Jackson. And shout out those guys over there. They got themselves a wagon, man. They're good. I like watching them. I also like it when his son refers to him as 2. Like, he refers to himself as number 2. I love that.
Yeah, man. The chip off the whole block, bro.
Yeah, big fans of what they're doing over there, man. God, it's remarkable. Dion, we love you, bro. We really do. Anyways, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. Y'all continue on, man.
Now you good, man. So what do you feel like is Florida's defense is a little sweet, in my opinion. We're missing guys like Tyron Harper at the linebacker position. Out of all the transfers we lost Chris Bogle, we lost Tyron Harper, and we lost Diabate. The one guy that would make this defense a lot better if we had Hopper and Ventrell Miller in the middle. But you guys have him on your defense. What do you see offensively that you think you guys match up well or not well? Like, how do you see the matchup?
Again, I am a little worried about that offensive line. I just don't know if they're an SEC caliber offensive line, if they can hang with big dogs that, the Floridas that. But they certainly proved they can hang with the Georgia defensive line. They got some dogs up there. So I think that's kind of what I'm worried about. I think you see them go to the ground a whole lot. I think you see a lot of running from Missouri. They had success in the running game. So I think you kind of try to see them kind of parlay that success in the running game with this one to kind of open up some of those passing downs, those passing deep shots that they can hit on some play action, stuff like that. So the Drinkwitz offense hasn't really translated that well to the college level. He was a disciple of Brian Harsin. That's not really going well at Auburn either for him. So they kind of run the similar offense, so it's tough to like see the light at the end of the
That's
tunnel.
a bad
right?
tree to be off of right now.
It's
Ain't
like
gonna lie.
I don't love
Shitty
it. I
tree.
don't love it.
That tree ain't
Yeah,
bearing
so-
no fruit.
Those
No,
are
I'm not too confident when it
more of
comes
a
to
bush.
offense at all.
I don't know if I'm gonna call it a tree. Ragweed.
Yeah, I'm about to say weed. Yeah.
Yeah, Go ahead.
Man, I like your defensive line. I thought they played a good game versus Georgia. How do you think they fare against our offensive line? I think we have a very good offensive line, but you have guys, Trayon, Jeff Coat, Isaiah McGuire. I thought both of those guys looked real good versus Georgia.
Zaire McGuire's a stud, man. He gets in there and can wreck with the best of them. To be fair, I haven't watched a whole lot of Florida offensive line, so I don't really know how those guys will fare.
Oh yeah, they running down on people, man. It's ugly.
And that's what worries me. That's what
Yeah.
worries me because this defensive line, while they've had some good games, man, they've shown some glimpses of what they were last year, right? Last year that they didn't really defend the run all that well. They're susceptible to the run because they like to get after the quarterback, and so sometimes they get too far upfield, get bit like that. So that's something that I worry about a little bit. The secondary's been pretty good for Missouri. Chris Abrams-Drain, one of those guys that's played really well and has gone up against some of the best receivers for these teams. So the defense is certainly the strongest part of Mizzou right now. But again, I'm not too confident in them just because you never know what you're going to get game to game. You could get a Georgia game,
Right.
but then you could also get a Kansas State game. They've just been so incredibly inconsistent that there's nothing I'm too confident in.
Yeah, my defense has been consistently bad, so I know what to kind of expect. If you guys are using a quarterback spot for your defense, it's got to be Hopper, right?
Yeah, man, he's been a game changer, I think, for what Blake Baker's been able to do for this defense. He kind of is a do-it-all guy, and it's been great to see him get after it and kind of almost have, I don't want to say a rebirth, but like kind of have some revitalization to his college career. Looking at him now, I mean, I think that you can see a very confident player, a guy who's very confident in his play and confident in not only the scheme but the players around him as well. So I really like what he's been able to do and able to add to this defense. Man, I know he played really well against Mizzou last year, and seeing him going off that after I saw like he transferred to Mizzou, I was like, well, he played really good against us last year, so this should be good. So I really like him. I think the defense really runs through him.
What do you think Mizzou has to do to win this game? What has to go right for Mizzou to win this game?
I think they got to connect on some deep balls. Brady Cook has struggled to connect with Dom Lovett, who I don't know if he's leading the SEC in yardage still, but going into last week he was leading the SEC in receiving yardage. He got a little banged up, but I think he'll be all right to play this week. But I think you got to see some connections on those deep balls. You got to see the Dom Lovetts, the Luther Burdens, those guys haul those shot plays in for them to be successful on the offensive side of the ball. They're going to run the ball. That's what they're going to do. But to take advantage of the opportunities that they can get when they have those deep shots open up, they've got to be able to take advantage of that. And I think that's been kind of Missouri's downfall is that they've had opportunities, but they haven't fully seized them. They've had, small mental errors. The offensive line has attributed way too many penalties between false starts, holdings. They brought back so many big plays from holdings and false starts. Are very undisciplined when it comes to the penalties. So I'm sure you're licking your lips with that one. That'll be good. That'll be good for that. But you gotta kind of play clean football, and you got to take the opportunities when they're given. And that's what I kind of think the offense has to do.
Yeah, no doubt. I do respect. I think you got, like you said, you got some playmakers on the outside receiver. We are suspect in our secondary. Trey Dean isn't starting anymore, so it's Kamari Wilson in the secondary, so he'll get some opportunities. But you got a freshman back there, so it's always in the back of your mind that you got a true freshman, and playing on the back end. So we'll see, man. I don't think it's the SEC, bro. As you can see with Georgia last week, you got to show up to play every single week. It don't matter what it say on the side of the helmet. Everybody can beat your ass, man. So should be an interesting one in the swamp. Give me your prediction on how you see it playing out in the score, man.
Well, I think I looked earlier this week. I think Florida was favored by 11 points when I checked the DraftKings Sportsbook, who we work with at KC Sports Network. I think Florida was favored by 11 points, and I think it's a pretty solid line, especially being at home for Florida. I think it's going to be tough for Mizzou to get up in this game. I don't necessarily trust the offensive line all that well. I do think Florida wins it. What's going to be tough for Mizzou is this is pretty close to a must-win for them if they want to make a bowl game. You look at their schedule, look back after their schedule's tough. You can kind of pencil in Vanderbilt, you can pencil in New Mexico State as 2 wins, but then that only brings them to 4 wins. They've got to steal a win, whether it's Tennessee. I don't think they beat Tennessee. Kentucky, they've got to try to beat Kentucky. They can maybe beat South Carolina. We'll see how that South Carolina team shakes out. But they've got to try to steal 2 wins in a tough, backloaded SEC schedule to make a bowl game. And that's if they don't make a bowl game, that's a backwards year for Eli Drinkwitz, and that's not going to be very good with the fan base. So we'll see how that happens. I do think it's going to be closer than 11 points. So I do think Florida will win it. It's going to be one of those noon swamp games, So I'll probably say let's go 27-21 Gators is what I'll say.
I got it 30-17 Gators. Like I said, if you guys are at home, I have a little bit closer, just due to Florida pretty much struggling at Mizzou in the past, and what you guys did last week against Georgia. But home team, I got them 30-17.
Right.
I think Mizzou's gonna, possibly have a little bit of a hangover from not pulling off that victory against Georgia. Which leads me, I think, they might have emptied the tank on that game. That was a game that they had an opportunity to win. Pulled up just a little bit lame right there towards the finish line. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to go Florida 34, Mizzou 21.
Damn, you almost picked my exact score.
That's almost damn near. Yeah, I think they spent a lot in that Georgia game, and I think losing that, I think it took a lot of winning out of the sales. I think they would be probably better served if they didn't just lose closely to Georgia, but that's kind of how I see that particular game playing out.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be fairly close, like first half, unless something go crazy. You never know. But how I see it playing out, it's fairly close game. We maybe be up 1 possession the entire first half, but late in the third, fourth, I think we start to pull away a little bit, and we win to the tune of 34-20.
Good.
2 touchdown win game. That's
There
how I
you
see
go.
it playing out. Hey Tucker, I appreciate you for hanging out with us, man. Tell the people where they can find you at, man. Great job, bro.
Yeah, no, you can follow me on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin. Follow KC Sports Network on Twitter at KC Sports Network. Pretty easy stuff, man. Pretty straightforward. Appreciate y'all for having me, man. It's great to talk. Great to talk some SEC. I love it.
Already, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for
man.
hanging out, man.
Appreciate
you having them, man. Good stuff.
Right on, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, thank you.